All right, I haven't tied one of these in quite a while, so kind of excited to do this. This is going to be a woven body Czech Nymph. It's a body style that you can use on not only this type of fly, but a lot of other types of flies. I tie a lot of stone flies with woven bodies too. Those come out pretty cool. We're going to get something that looks like that when we're all said and done. The body on there is really, really cool. It looks like a complicated thing, but it's really not that difficult. And once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. So in the vise, I'm going to use an Arax 541. I'm going to do this in a size 10. Just a gold bead on there. And the thread I'm going to use is UTC 70 in burnt orange. So what I'm going to do is take my thread and I'm just going to move it down and kind of measure how large of a thorax I'm going to want on this fly. And right about there is where I'm going to start my thread. And part of the reason why I want to do that is I want that cutoff to be pretty prominent, because when I start weaving the body, I want to see pretty clearly where I'm going to want to stop. And I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to that point. All right, for the tail, I'm just going to take some of this brown ostrich herl, and I'm going to pull a couple of fibers down from the bottom part of the quill, where they're a lot smaller. Can you grab 2 or 3? I grabbed 2 here. And I want those tips to kind of be what I want for the tail. So just going to kind of align them the best I can. Just line them up like that. You don't want much of a tail, just a little protrusion there. And if you want to shorten them or anything, you can always just cut them. But that length that I just measured out looks pretty good. So one of the things you're going to have to pay attention to is thread bulk. There's going to be quite a few things that we're going to tie in here for the body, so we want to make sure we don't go too crazy. We want to build up a taper and get all those materials tied in, so we have to make sure that we do that with a little bit of planning. So let's first get rid of all this first. Okay. Now, the first thing that you're going to want to tie in is you want some of this small scud back. The 1/8 inch is the smaller size, so you're going to want that. The bigger size is just going to kind of spill over the sides of the fly a little too much. You don't really want that. And this is just the clear. And whether it's the scud back or the body material, no matter what it is, you can obviously switch up the colors to whatever it is that you want to do it at. So I'm just going to kind of get this centered onto the hook shank. I'm going to slide the end of it right where I want my body to end, and then I'm going to extend it a little bit beyond my thread and start tying that in and tightening it down. Now the reason why I extend that scud back a little bit beyond my thread is because I said in the beginning that I want to be very crystal clear of where my body is going to end. And even though I'm going to start my thread where I started it and measure that out, the problem is that I'm going to remove my thread to weave the body. And to do that, I'm going to do a bit of a whip finish, and you're going to have a little bit here on the bare shank. But that plastic sticking out will always be there. It'll always be visible. So that'll always serve as a good marker. Now, what you want is you want a thin piece of round thread that is a similar color to the body you're going to make. I'm going to use a brown and like a yellowish colorish kind of body. So I've got this piece of 8 Euro thread. And it doesn't matter what type of thread you use. I just make sure that it's round. You don't want to use like a UTC for this. I'm just going to slip that in here. This is going to serve as a rib. So I'm just going to tie that in on the side. And basically what I'm doing as I tie this stuff in is I'm working my thread down about 1/4 of the way, doubling back to the front, working it down another 1/4, coming back to the front again, then another 1/4, and just building my taper like that. So now I'm back at the front. And here's where I'm going to tie in my body material. So what you're going to want to use for this, I mean, you can use a bunch of different things, but this is what I like the most. I'm not sure if showing this label is really going to help anything, but this is kind of what it all looks like. This is embroidery floss. You can get this from any craft store. This one chunk of embroidery floss will last you a lifetime of tying flies, and it's like 75 cents. So, you know, this isn't exactly a very expensive venture, but that embroidery floss is a really good body material, and you get a ton of it for almost nothing. So I got that from Michael's. You can get that from pretty much any craft store. They have a mountain of colors. I'm trying to look. This is number 744. I don't think that's going to help you if you don't buy the same brand, but looking on the label here, I don't see an actual color. But I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, you see it's like a lightish yellow kind of. But so when you do a woven body, you can either do one color or you can do two colors. The color I want to do for this fly is I want brown on the top and I want that yellowish to be the belly of the fly. So this is important. Whatever color you want on the top of your fly, you're going to tie in on the side of the hook shank closest to you. So because I want a brown top to my body, I'm going to tie in the brown embroidery floss facing me. Now the bottom part of the fly, I want to be this yellow color. So what I'm going to do is, yes, I'm going to tie that in on the side of the shank away from me, but before I do that, this is what this embroidery floss looks like. You can see that it's a collection of smaller fibers twisted together. I'm just going to use one fiber. You can use 2, 3, hell, you can use the entire floss if you want. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I tie a lot of stone flies like this. So with my stone flies, I do actually go and use the entire thing. But in this case, I'm going to take this one strand and just pull it out, and that's what I'm going to tie in. So I'm going to tie that in on the opposite side of the hook shank because that's what I want the belly color to be. Get that tied in. And I want both of those strands to stay on the side of the hook shank. So I'm going to take my time a little bit here and just hold that where I want it as I work my thread down. I just want to make sure that those don't spill over or anything. I want to keep them on opposite sides of the hook shank. And I'm going to bring my thread all the way down to where I tied in my tail. Might want to pull your scud back forward a little bit to see. I got to take a couple more wraps. This is a funky step. Sometimes it looks like you're done, but you actually have a couple more wraps to get to your tail. And I'm going to do one more. That'll work. So we'll bring our thread back to the front. Let's snip these off. We're going to secure those. And we're good. All right, so we have the floss, we have the scud back, we have everything that we need tied in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to advance my thread past the body. And I'm just going to put in, you know, a 3 or 4 turn whip finish. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be super secure, but we're going to get our thread right out of there. So now, no thread. Now the best way to show how this works is for us to be looking right straight down at the fly. So I'm going to pause this. I'm going to change my setup a little bit here so that we're looking right at the fly. Okay, hopefully this kind of comes out the way that I want it. Let me slide that over a little bit and center it. So you're looking right dead at the front of the fly. And the way we're going to do this, as I said in the beginning, these bodies seem to be pretty complicated. They're actually really easy. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take my 2 pieces of embroidery floss. Let's get everything else out of the way. Let's get our ribbing material out of the way, get our scud back out of the way. So here's what we have. We have our 2 pieces of floss. And I had mentioned that I want our brown to go on top and the light yellow to go on the bottom. So all you're going to do is you're going to continuously repeat the same step again and again and again. And you're basically just going to tie a slip knot like how you start to tie your shoe. So we're going to do that pretty easily. I'm going to take the piece that I want on top. So I'm going to take the brown, which is going to be my top color, and I'm going to run it behind the yellow. See how it's behind the yellow? And all I'm going to do is slip this through that loop. Again, same knot that you start tying your shoe with. And when I start to pull it tight, you'll see what I mean. It's just I've got a lot of material I'm working with here. Okay? So you got that, just like when you start tying your shoe. So all you're going to do before you tighten it is just push back a little bit on the brown and see how it creates that second loop? Just slip that loop right onto the top of the hook shank and then pull it tight. Okay, there we go. There's our first knot. So we've got the yellow on the bottom now, and then we've got the brown on the top, and we've got the little yellow lines going up the side. So now we're just going to do it again. I want the brown on top, so I'm going to take my brown, I'm going to slide it behind the yellow, and then I'm going to take the tip of this, I'm going to slip it through there just like I'm tying my shoe. So there's my knot, just like the first step of tying my shoe. Take the brown, back it off a little bit to create that second little loop, and before you tighten the knot, just slip the brown onto the top of the hook shank, and then just pull it tight. And that's it. So all we've got to do is just continue that process. So the color that you want on top goes behind the other color. Before you tighten your knot, slip that over the top of the hook shank, pull it tight. Take the color we want on top, put it behind the other color, slide that through like you're tying your shoe, and then before you tighten the knot, whoops, I got it a little too tight, let me just loosen that a little bit. And before you tighten the knot, make that little extra loop by backing it off and pull it tight. And as long as you keep pulling it tight, nice and evenly on both sides of the hook shank, when you turn back and look at your fly, you should have nice even knots all the way up. It should kind of come out the way that you're hoping for. As I said before, you're really just kind of doing this again and again and again, and once you get the hang of where your fingers got to go and where you have to apply pressure, and you start to develop a little bit of muscle memory doing it, it goes really quick. These flies are not utilized as much as they should be, and again I think it's just because of the perceived difficulty. But once you tie one of these, you're like, oh yeah, that's really not that hard at all. And once you get going on it, you can really, really switch up the possibilities, especially when you go to buy the embroidery floss. I mean, if you actually do go to a craft store and check that out, or even online. I mean, I don't buy it online because, I have a Michael's right here in town, but if you do, you'll see how many different colors they have. And you don't have to worry about going a little nuts because the stuff is just so damn cheap. And it's cool too because they're all individual fibers, so the same exact material you can use to tie a bunch of different kinds of flies. So it's not like you have to buy, one size for smaller flies and another size for bigger flies. Just remove as many of the strands as you need to remove to make it as small as you need it. So it's pretty versatile stuff. Looks good wet. Really good for nymphs. Obviously really good for woven bodies. And nice little switch up. All right, so really it was me just kind of babbling to fill a little time here as I just keep doing the same step over and over again. This is probably riveting content here, but what I'll do as I get into the last few steps here is I'm just going to kind of repeat again what we're doing here. So I've got my two pieces of floss. I want the brown on top. So I'm going to put the brown behind the yellow, and then I'm just going to tie a simple slip knot Same tie that I use to tie my shoe. Once I have that knot, back off your top color a little bit. Just push it back on itself, make that little loop, and then slip that little loop onto the top of the fly, and then tighten your knot. And you're good. And just keep plugging away with that. Color you want on top goes behind. Tie a slip knot. Before you tighten the slip knot, put the color you want on top of the fly, on the top of the fly, and then tighten it. So let's see, let me get a side view of this. How much further do I have to go? Just a couple more. Could pause the video, but just fast forward it. In the meantime, this used to be one of my favorite flies. I mean, I'm actually not a big, switch flies a lot kind of guy. I've really boiled down my fly box to just a few select flies. I don't carry as much as I used to carry multiple boxes, all kinds of different sizes, color. I mean, I had a fly shop right in my sling pack. So I've whittled that down quite a bit. I don't carry very many flies anymore. I really just kind of fish my confidence flies unless I'm going to a body of water where I know they're going to be a little more selective. So I used to carry these all the time. I mean, they're still in there because I have a bunch left. I just don't use them as much as I should anymore, but they are really effective. So once we get to this point, I'm going to leave a little bit, but I'm just going to snip that off. And the reason why I'm going to snip it off is the whole body is all knotted, so it's not going anywhere. So let me return the fly to the original position and we'll finish this up. Okay, so that's the side view. And that's the look that we're getting, that segmented woven look. And you've got all the little blips right there of your knots. You got the bottom is going to be yellow. So that's what we're shooting for with this. So now what we're going to do, the rest of this is pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to go back to my tying thread, reintroduce that to the hook. Just get that on there, cut the tag off. So I'm going to move my thread right up to where I finished my body. Butt that right up against that. I'm going to fold this little tag end over and catch it with my thread. Fold the other little tag end over, catch that with my thread. And those are a couple of important thread wraps because as soon as you do that, then your body is locked in and you're all set. And there we go. Cut those off. Let's get those tag ends tied down, get them out of there. And we're good. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's take this clear scud back. And I'm just going to fold it over the top. And you want to try to get this centered. So basically what we'll do is we're going to hold it tight, and you can kind of see how it just covers the back symmetrically. And while I hold that, I'm going to take a loose wrap with my thread, get that around, and then really tighten that down because you don't want that to slide all over the place on you. Now after your second wrap, let's just turn this. And it does look like it's nice and evenly on the top of the fly. You don't want it all crooked and all over the place. That'll just make all that hard work you just put in and make the fly look like crap. It'll ruin all that. So, but we're good. I just lost a little tension on my thread, but everything stayed in place. So we're in good shape here. So let's get rid of the scud back. I'm going to reintroduce that in a minute. You could just leave it on there, but I'm not going to do that. So this piece of thread that we tied in is going to kind of be our rib. So I'm going to take one wrap here at the back, and then I want to run it through. See how these little knots here? I want to run it through the middle of each one of those knots. So let's get it going on the first one. Apply a little tension so that you make a little bit of a segmented groove in the body there. Just keep wrapping it and applying it in between each one of those knots, and that'll give you some pretty nice even spacing. Apply a little pressure when you get to the top, And then we can just wrap it a couple times, wrap it around our tying thread, and then tighten your tying thread, and that'll lock in everything. Okay, so there's that. There's our segmented body, the two-tone color, pretty much everything we're shooting for. All right, now for the thorax, we're going to revisit our scud back here. And again, you could have just folded it back, but that fold creates a little bit of bulk. I like to just cut it off and just get it out of my way because it just always seems to be in my way. So I'm just going to put this right back dead on the top of the fly and get a nice little loose wrap in here just to kind of gather it. Get that all secured and run my thread back to where our body ended. Now, for the material that I'm going to use for the thorax here, I'm going to use some of this pearl midge flash. It's basically just Krystal flash, but in a midge size. And what I'm going to do, and this is a step where this is the material that I like the most, but you know, you can use all kinds of different materials for this, but this is what I like the most. I'm going to take about 4 strands of this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make it. I want 4. This one was being a pain. I was going to just use it, but I don't want to do that. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. All right, so I got about 4 strands of this. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the middle, and I'm just going to simply double it over. So now I have 8 strands. And then I'm going to double it over again. So now I have a chunk of 16 strands. So I'm just doubling it over on top of each other. So take that, lay it right on your hook shank, and let's just get a loose little pinch wrap here. It'll gather all those fibers. Hold it straight. Run your thread all the way up to the end of your body. And then come in here and snip off that excess. Now, dubbing-wise, you can use pretty much anything. I'm just going to go pretty simple here and just use some natural hare's ear. Probably one of the best thorax dubbing materials you could possibly get. This is where another area where you can switch it up, make it as buggy as you'd like. I'm going to go pretty straight with it. I'm not going to go too buggy. These types of nymphs, I like them to sink and sink fast. So I don't go too crazy with them. I'll tease out a couple of fibers, but you don't really have to go crazy. So I'm going to put on a nice tight dubbing noodle here. Hold everything back. Get that dubbing started right there at the back and just run a single layer all the way down until we get to the bead. The flash is just simply going to get folded forward. Your thread will collect it and get it all where you want it. So just get a couple of wraps. Make sure you keep your wraps as close to the bead as you can get them. Oh, you got one little rogue fiber there. You got to fold over too. Once you get a couple wraps there, let's fold over the scud back. This is just one big giant piece. Whoops. Before you do that, let's get this out of the way. Now we can fold this forward. Make sure that it's even, not crooked. Nice little loose wrap to grab it. Get a couple of wraps to secure it. Let's fold this back, couple wraps in front. You can use scissors. I like with scud back. I just like the razor blade because you just touch it and it's gone. All right. So I want a little bit of a thread hotspot on this, which is why I use the burnt orange. So I'm just going to take some wraps here and build that up. And they're just disappearing under the bead. All right, so we'll come in here with a quick whip finish. Now, theoretically, I mean, this is technically done. You know, that is the fly. I'm just going to tease a little bit of this out, not much. Just give that a little rub, get a couple of fibers out of there. But what I like to do, I like to top this with a little bit of resin. So I'm going to come in here with some thick UV finish. I'm going to get it right into that little nook there behind the wing case. That's a little too much, so I'm going to just move it forward. A little bit more. And just kind of work it until you get that nice rounded look that you're looking for. That'll work right about there. And just come in and zap it. And that's pretty much going to do it. That's a woven body Czech Nymph. And I did that with embroidery floss with the blue and the yellow. You know, this is a tutorial on this specific fly, but really at the end of the day, it's a tutorial on how to do that type of body. So you can take that and apply it to, you know, different colors of this fly. You can do stone flies, all kinds of different things. But a woven body is a really, really cool effect on a fly. Really, really cool look. That's kind of what you end up with. So don't shy away from them. They're a lot easier than you might think. They seem kind of complicated. But once you do one or two of them, I mean, once you get the hang of it, I mean, it's really, really pretty simple. And actually, now that I look at this a second time, I would like this tail to just be a tad shorter. So that's actually going to be it right there. I know it's me just being neurotic, but that's kind of what I prefer. And that is that. That's your woven body Czech Nymph. Pretty awesome style of body. So questions, anything, just throw them in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll get back to any comments as quickly as I can.